In this video, we're going to show you how to replace the radiator on your Ford Explorer. It's located right down in front of your engine. On the lower passenger side of your radiator, there's going to be a drain right here. We got our drain can here. Go ahead and turn this counterclockwise. We're going to unscrew that. And this should open up our drain. Now on the driver's side lower portion of the radiator is our lower radiator hose. We're going to go ahead and use our pliers, open up that clamp, and we're going to try and remove that hose off of our radiator and continue draining this unit. You want to check the condition of that clamp as well. If that seems weak or rusty, now is probably a perfect time to prepare to replace that. We're going to work our hose off the radiator here, have your drain bucket underneath. Good idea to have safety glasses. Now from underneath the vehicle, we want to go ahead and take our belt tensioner tool. We want to reach up here from underneath and move the tensioner. We'll go ahead and remove the belt from the top. And we'll finish draining the radiator like that. I'm going to go ahead, use our flathead screwdriver, loosen our upper intake tube clamp to our throttle body. I want to disconnect this connector right here to the sensor. I'm going to press down on the back side. Normally you can just pinch that and pop that off. I'm going to use our pocket screwdriver. Just going underneath. Our sensor just popped right out with the connector on it. Your mass airflow. Press down on the spring tab. If it doesn't want to come out, apply a little bit of pressure there. You do not want to pull on the wires, but you can use a small flathead screwdriver and gently work this off. Be careful not to damage the plastic. Slide that off. And we want to go ahead and separate the upper lid of our airbox. There should be 2 clamps. Pop that up and repeat for the other side. Once those are disconnected, we can go ahead and remove our upper intake tube and work this lid off and set the whole thing aside. Want to use our tool for this clamp here. I'm going to work that back and go ahead and release that. Now I'm just going to work this clamp down if I can off of the hose, and then we'll work that hose off. Kind of bring that clamp down at an angle, and we'll try and get a hook in there We'll use our pick to see if we can get up underneath that hose and we'll start to work that off. All right, looks like we got our hose loosened here. Let's try and work that off the water neck. And then we can remove our clamp. If your hose is flared out here, you definitely want to go ahead and replace that at this time. It's not recommended to put that on because that is a weak point now on that hose. Go ahead and remove your belt. So what we just do is we use the pry bar to lock our water pump pulley in place, and then we used our tool to go ahead and loosen the fan nut on the front here. So what we have to do is we have to remove the fan with our shroud at the same time. So in order to do that, we have to loosen that fan. We're going to continue to do this. We're going to hold on to the water pump pulley. And in most cases, we can hold on to that pulley and spin that fan, and you can see that nut spinning off with it. We're going to unthread our cooling fan right now. And eventually it'll drop off and it'll just rest like that. It'll rest inside the shroud. Let's now go ahead and remove the hardware for our fan shroud and pull this out. On the upper portion of our shroud here, there's going to be an 8mm bolt right here. There's going to be one on the passenger side as well. Go ahead and loosen and remove those. Let's go ahead and grab our shroud and our fan together, and let's see if we can remove this. I'm just going to take a little bit of manipulation here to get us up and out. Go ahead and pull the fan out. And then the shroud. We want to go ahead and remove our overflow tank hose right here. Normally there's a tie wrap right here. We want to cut ours so we can go ahead and remove our hose. And I'm not going to cut this, but I'm going to go ahead and pinch these little tabs here and push this retainer through. And set this hose aside. We have our 2 transmission cooler lines here on the driver's side of the radiator. We use our 16mm wrench. I want to go ahead, loosen, and remove these here. Let's go ahead and get to that bottom one.
So now that we have our two lines undone, on the top side here, we have a 10mm bolt. I'm going to loosen and remove this, and then we'll go ahead and repeat the same for the passenger side. With our hood open, we want to go ahead and disconnect our battery. We're going to start by disconnecting the negative side here using an 8mm socket. Go ahead and spin that off and set that aside. Go ahead, loosen and remove our positive terminal here. Now, if your battery has a hold-on clamp or something like that, you want to go ahead, loosen, and remove that. Now, our particular vehicle doesn't have one in it, so we're simply going to go ahead, pick up the battery, and set it aside. You want to discharge your AC professionally before doing this here, and this is why. This line right here goes to the AC condenser. The radiator has to be removed with the AC condenser. So we're going to go ahead, we removed our battery here. We use a 13mm socket and get to this upper nut right here. And this is coming out as a stud. It might come off with just a nut and leave the stud in there, but ours came out. Gonna go ahead and discharge. You might hear a small purge right here. Any little remnants of the AC, a little pop there. And just kind of twist that off to the side. Just go ahead and loosen the nut on the other AC line here. There's a little rubber O-ring on the AC line here. I'm going to just kind of tuck that back in. And go ahead and inspect it, make sure that that O-ring is in good condition. If it does look like it's torn or worn, you want to go ahead and replace it. Ours looks like it's in good condition, so we're going to go ahead and reuse that. Now on the passenger side of our AC condenser is a plastic shield down here that's held on with a plastic button down there. I'm going to go ahead and pop that button. The driver's side does not have one of these on our particular model. If yours has it, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing over there. So we have that little cover removed. Now I want to go ahead and separate our AC condenser from the radiator. I'm going to start by removing the bolt that is right here. We're going to loosen it from the front side. It's going to unscrew from this clip. Using our 10mm socket, let's go ahead and do that. Here's our bolt. On the bottom, there's a little spring here, a little spring clip. We're going to push that through. This should slide out of our radiator up top here. We can pop this out of that plastic clip. I'm going to remove this AC condenser because we're going to reuse that. We'll go ahead and remove this from our radiator. that slides back that way. So the bottom slides out while the two top ones slide in. Go ahead and remove your radiator cap. I'm going to go ahead and install our AC condenser mount. Let's take that bottom tab there, slide that in, and the upper portion is going to slide in like so. Going to slide our AC condenser over and in. Go ahead and snap that in. Do the same on the bottom. And once we have the driver's side installed, we can go ahead and install the other side here. We have our clip on the bottom. Slide that in. Lock that into place. And we'll go ahead and install our bolt up top. And once that bolt snugs down, you're good to go. You don't want to over tighten it, break the clip or the radiator. Now on either side of your radiator, you have these mounts right here. When you lower those down, these are going to fit into the rubber bases or mounts for that. I'll go ahead and grab my AC line, make sure that is up on this side here. And we'll go ahead and line up our AC port. Wiggle that into place. I'm going to go ahead and get that nut installed right here. And just going to get that started. Now we went ahead and inspected our O-ring on this line as well, and it was in good shape. So we're going to line that up, install our stud on this side here. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and snug these down. I'm doing this by hand because I do not want to over tighten and crack the radiator. Once this is snug, we're going to go ahead and repeat for the passenger side AC line. And once that bolt bottoms out, you just want to give it a little bit more. Give that AC line a wiggle. That's nice and tight. Let's go ahead and repeat for the passenger side. All right, that's snug. Give it a little bit more. You're going to have a fitting here that needs to go into the top part of your radiator. You want to inspect inside here, make sure that there's a rubber O-ring. If not, you want to go ahead and source an O-ring to fit in there. So what we're going to do is simply thread this into our radiator here. Using our 19mm wrench, let's go ahead and snug that down into position. You just want to make sure that that is nice and tight. I'm going to go ahead and repeat for the bottom. I install these after we install the radiator. The reason for that is that with these sticking out, it can cause interference when lowering the radiator down into position. So that's why we install these after. Now we can go ahead and get our transmission lines installed. You want to go ahead and start these by hand. So you're going to basically wiggle the line. You can wiggle the line on these here just to get the threads started. And you don't want to cross thread these here, so you just got to be careful with that. Should thread in nice and easy. I'm going to go ahead and do the same for the bottom. Once you have those started, we can go ahead and snug those down. On the upper portion of our radiator where our mounts are, you want to go ahead and install these rubber bushings with the sleeve. Just go ahead and slide those into place. Go ahead and repeat for the other side. And go ahead and install our bolts. Before we tighten down this bolt, we're going to go ahead and install the driver's side one. Then we'll come on back and tighten this down after. Let's go ahead and run our overflow hose back into place. I want to go ahead and install our radiator cap. And we're just going to do this temporarily for now so we don't have anything fall down inside of our radiator. We will reopen this later on to fill our cooling system. I want to go ahead and install our shroud and our fan. We have to do this together. I'm going to go ahead and lower this down. I'm going to set this down into place. On the front of our water pump here, there's just a little rubber cap. I'm going to pop that off. Bring our fan up into place. And we're just going to spin that fan to get that threaded on. Once you have the fan in place here, you can actually rotate the water pump pulley by hand. Spin that there until it's bottomed out. Now before we tighten that, let's go ahead and get our fan shroud mounted into place. Now there are tabs on our fan shroud itself, and these want to fit down in the lower portion. And once those are in, then we can go ahead and get our bolts installed on each side of our shroud. I'm going to install our bolt retaining clips here on our radiator. We'll go ahead and install our bolt here. Go ahead and snug that down. I just want to snug it into place. I just want to keep it from rattling loose. Let's go ahead and repeat for the other side. Install our upper radiator hose. Now I want to go ahead and tighten up our clamp on this side here. Now we're going to tighten our fan. We're going to use the tool that we use to remove the fan. Use our pry bar up against a water pump pulley and a nut. I'm going to go ahead and tighten the nut on the fan itself to the shaft of the water pump here. Let's go ahead and install our belt. I'm going to go ahead and run our belt around the crankshaft and around our idler pulley, and then we'll run up around the backside of our water pump pulley. Now from underneath the vehicle, I'm going to go ahead and run that belt around my crankshaft, around my lower idler pulley, and feed that up around the backside of my water pump pulley. I'll run the belt over to our alternator. Now our belt is run generally in the right direction where we need it to have put on all of our pulleys, but this belt has to go underneath this idler here. Let's go ahead and run our belt around our idler here. We're going to finalize putting the belt on from underneath the vehicle. It's going to be easier for us to access our tensioner that way there. We're going to go ahead and bring our tensioner back here. We're going to bring our belt around to our other idler. Go ahead and release our tool. And you want to go ahead and
Give that belt a tug. You want to do a visual inspection, make sure that the belt is in all of the pulleys correctly. Everything's lined up. Everything looks good from here. So right here, let's go ahead and twist the hose on. And we're going to move our clamp up into position, release that, and snug it down. Good, remove your radiator cap. And if you have your funnel, go ahead and install your funnel. And once your system is filled up, I want to go ahead and install your radiator cap. You want to go ahead and start up the vehicle, go for your road test, put the heating system on high. You want to go ahead and let that system open up, let the thermostat open, cycle that coolant through. Then after driving for a little bit, let the engine cool down. Then you want to go ahead and check that coolant level and add it as necessary. Install an airbox lid, put these 3 tabs into our base. As we lower this down into place, we want to install this onto our throttle body here. Install the locking clamps on our airbox lid. Do the same for the other side. I'm going to install our harnesses here. So line that up. Squeeze it into place. We have our temp sensor right here. I'm going to line that up, pop that in. Let's tighten down our hose here to our throttle body. Make that snug.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.